And then he ended up signing it for me, and I love that. I mean, honestly, that's so cool. He was kind of signing, I think that was his sort of staple signature quote, keep your balls in the air.
And it's a special yoga move, actually. That's what it is. It's a special, kind of like the breath of fire, the tweak of joy, the keep your balls in the air. And
yeah,
that's what it is.
Exactly. The first question was, this gentleman asked is, what other types of genres would Don Coscarelli like to work around in, and what's how does he feel about being sort of a genre filmmaker and mostly working in horror, although he has done fantasy and he has done thrillers and adventure films as well as teen comedy, but mostly he works within the genre and of sci-fi, horror, and dark fantasy, and he gave a really good response to that, so we're going to go ahead and show you that right now.
Well, I've had a really interesting career. I mean, in some respects, it's just, a blessing and wonderful. In other ways, it's sort of god-awful. The thing is that, and many of the fellow filmmakers who are in the genre find out that if you're fortunate enough to have a successful horror or sci-fi type film early on, good luck getting the financing for any other kind of project. So, like all of you out there, I have a vast array of interests, and through the years I've tried to get other projects going. I mean, I would love to do a World War II project, and I've got a great one I've been working on. There's a Western that I've worked on. Well, actually, for a while I was working on a horror Western with Joe Lansdale, and that would have been cool, but it didn't happen. So, no, I've got quite a bit of interest, but it's really more a function of what the market will bear. So, if I've got a little, splattering blood and the bodies hit the floor, I've got a lot better chance of getting it funded. But I guess you can see I got a sense of humor about it, and the thing is I've never lost my love of the horror genre. So for me, honestly, if tomorrow the funding came through for a kick-ass horror film, I would be really excited to make it. So,
yeah, good stuff. That's good stuff. So the second question was, what advice can he give to young filmmakers? And like a lot of filmmakers I've heard this answer from, there's no definitive answer on what kind of advice anybody can give you, because everyone has... Filmmaking is a very odd and competitive and bizarre industry to get into, and it's not like you go to school, get a degree, and people just pluck you, or you go up with a resume. It's a very tricky thing, and so there isn't really any one piece of advice, and it's always interesting to hear directors give a good kind of their perspective, and so that's what I'm going to give you now is Don Coscarelli's advice for young filmmakers.
Here's the thing, aspiring filmmakers. Simply, I know people who make movies every weekend, and now with this technology, I wish I did. Sometimes I sit around waiting for funding, and I don't, as the actors say, I don't practice my instrument, But with the cell phones, cameras, and desktop editing, and After Effects, Adobe After Effects, the visual effects, I would say that aspiring filmmakers to start making films. Don't necessarily make them long, make short films that have punch. And by the way, in terms of working your way into the mainstream film business, obviously I've become a student of how many of friends and acquaintances have broken in, and it's always different. Somebody comes up with a different path in. Going back to the 80s with Bruce Campbell and Sam when they made The Evil Dead, they shot a trailer for their film. That's all they could have personally afforded to make. So they made the trailer and then started shopping that around to distributors or to investors and raised their funding that way. I always thought that was clever. Another director friend of mine, Jamie Blanks, he directed Urban Legend. He was stuck way down under in Australia, and so the challenge for him to break into Hollywood was, not only the difficulty of all the small number of slots, but he also had a lot of distance to cover. interesting thing there is they were looking for directing talent, and they'd sent one of the studios had sent a scout down there with a script for the movie I Know What You Did Last Summer. Jamie got a copy of this script, and he immediately got together with all his friends. He cleaned out his savings, took $4,000, and he went out and he shot like 4 sequences from that. And truthfully, if you analyze his little short and you look at the finished film, which he did not direct, they used so much of his material. Like, he created the look of the bad guy, the fisherman with the water and all that stuff. So he sent it into them, and they go, oh no, we already have a director for that. But they watched it and they liked it so much that they immediately flew him out and gave him the job of Urban Legend. So that was an enterprising way of breaking in. And more recently, a great way, I forgot the guy's name, but he did Lights Out. If anybody saw that film, he shot a short movie with this really cool concept, which is that every time you turn the lights out, you could see the monster, and he was able to handle the lighting and the visual effects. So you looked at it and you thought, oh, I can see that with a feature film, and James Wan's company hired him and they made a feature film. So there's a lot of, everybody finds a different way into the business. Some of them are really strange, like back in the 80s, Star is Born came out now, but the previous Star is Born in the early 80s, the producer of it was Barbara Streisand's hairdresser. So hairdressing can be a path in the film. But simply, it's start to experiment with the language of film by making your own films. Writing, I think, is really important, because writing is, writing, editing, and directing are almost the same thing. It's just they're different phases. You're writing your film into the editing. So I could go on and on. Read the book. That's my simple answer.
It's a great addition to the sci-fi horror genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Fred Myrow did the music. Fred Myrow is the same man. He did the music to Scarecrow, but he had done music for Trent Harris's Ruben and Ed and Plan 10 from Outer Space, as well as other Coscarelli movies like Phantasm 2, 3, and 4. So I recommend, if you haven't seen the original Phantasm or even Phantasm 2, watch both of them. 'Tis the season, scary movie month. I give both of them I give 4 stars to Phantasm for being just the iconic, influential horror film it is, and I give 3 stars to Phantasm 2 for just being a solid good time.
Yeah, I loved them. I loved them both, but I actually do lean towards the first one. That is definitely my favorite over the two. They are both really, truly awesome. My favorite parts of these, of course, is when they have to show bravery. They have to step up and be men, even though they're young people. There was one point where Mike, the new Mike, points out, he's like, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and you're a washed-up ice cream man. He's just pointing out how, like, this is ridiculous. No one's gonna. Anyway, it was just a funny situation because they're having to step up and be someone beyond themselves, and so that's still great, heroic, triumphant, message in and of itself, involved in this genre film. Growing up as a kid, you don't think of horror movies as something as an actual art piece. You think of it as more of something that's just scary as hell, and you don't want to go near. Because I never did when I was a kid. I never wanted to go see horror movies because they literally would just make me have nightmares and all this stuff. But as you get older, you understand more, and Joe has helped me to understand, of course, that there is so much richness in the stories, and if you talk about a film, and then there's like, this is what it's in the center, and this is Michael Bay over here, and this is your art film, they're definitely swaying towards the artistic genre. And that's the thing that I think that is so cool to recognize and understand, is that the horror films are scary and they're bloody and all these things that are probably not the average person wants to go see. Only certain people will go see these things. But I think that the most important thing to recognize here is that there's a lot of artistic quality and a huge amount of planning that's involved in these. And I love Phantasm. I love both of these.
Don Coscarelli was, I think, 24 or 25 when he wrote and directed this film. And there are moments where the cinematography just blows me away. Like when they first walk into the White Room, where all the dwarves are contained. Spoiler.
You're talking about the first Phantasm or the second?
First Phantasm. Yeah. So if you, again, spoilers, it's almost 40 years now, so I don't feel so bad. And hopefully, if you haven't seen the movie, this won't ruin it for you. Hopefully, if you love the film, you're enjoying this review. But when that scene, for those of us who've seen this movie and know it well, the scene where Jody, Mike, and Reg walk into the White Room, has all the dwarves crushed up in their containers ready to ship back to the dimensional gate, and the way the camera just follows them. It's obviously a dolly shot or a tracking shot. It looks so good still. In fact, a couple of my friends, I ran into some older friends, old friends at the theater. They're not older. I'm actually older than they are. But they hadn't seen this movie in probably 15, 20 years, and they both said the same thing, that it felt like it was watching it for the first time all over again, that it still stood up and stood the test of time. And personally, in my opinion, this film is in the ranks with Psycho, The Birds, Peeping Tom, Night of the Living Dead, Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, The Omen, Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, Alien, Dawn of the Dead, just like the all-time, Elm Street, just the all-time classic horror films, with your Shinings and Pet Sematary and things like that. This film absolutely is in the same category. And I do think it has an incredible level of artistry to it. Because the subtext is so much deeper than just kids surviving being killed through the night, or revenge slasher, where John Carpenter's Halloween is actually closer in spirit to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho than it is the original Friday the 13th. And I think Phantasm, it has a lot of those same qualities. You need to think about it. It's got a lot of beauty to it, and I think initially upon release it was kind of critically savaged, but over the years its approval rating by critics has gone up. It is certified fresh. It's worth a watch. Would you like to hear any comments?
If you really want to get scared, watch them backwards. Watch them on rewind mode.
Then you should watch Christmas movies that way, because then Santa Claus he's a bastard. He's the guy who comes down your chimney, steals all your gifts, and takes off. What a bastard.
It's like Benjamin Butthead.
Any fans out there who love this movie, let us know what you think. If you're new to it and you haven't seen it, watch it. And again, let us know what you think. I love reading comments and interacting with people.
And we are the Phantasm Menace. Thanks for watching.
We are the fan addicts of film. Thanks. Like and subscribe as always. And thanks for joining us.
Have a splendid evening.